everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbalo in Abuja. We're keeping tabs on the aftermath of the Adamawa governorship election and some of the scenarios which played out. The role, especially of that of the suspended resident electoral commission, Mr. Buhari. And it says it is the man should be investigated and prosecuted, but also it's now INEC has said that they do not know his whereabouts, and it will be important for relevant authorities not to allow this matter die without appropriate actions and final decisions and justice on the matter which obviously threaten Nigeria's democracy. We are not keeping our eyes away, because anything that will destroy our democracy, we must all as a people fight against it. But then those who are collaborators and those who hated that action that has been deemed illegal and a threat to our democracy must be thoroughly investigated and looked into, and all involved brought to justice. Tonight, my guest will be joining us to discuss a pressing issue that has been making headlines in the past days. Over 4,000 Nigerians are currently stranded in Sudan due to various circumstances, and the situation has sparked concern and calls for urgent action. Clashes between forces loyal to Sudan's army chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and his deputy Mohamed Abdan Daglo, who commands the paramilitary rapid support forces RSF, has degenerated over the past days, leading to the deaths of about 400 people. And several other, more than 2,000 people, we understand, are severely injured. People in their numbers are now trooping out of that country for fear of more escalation of the crisis, which has become more devastating despite calls for truce from different governments and world and international bodies. Khartoum International Airport had come under heavy bombardment as the rival forces vied for control. Reuters reports that a Saudi Arabian airline plane at Sudan's Khartoum Airport came under fire during clashes on Saturday. Nigerian federal government has said it is risky to evacuate Nigerian nationals in Sudan as a result of the tense situation in the country. So what is the fate of the about 4,000 Nigerians trapped in that country? With us tonight on the program. With us tonight on the program is the Foreign Affairs Minister, Mr. Geoffrey Onyema, who will be shedding more light on the matter and provide insight into the government's efforts to address the situation. Honorable Minister, thank you so much and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
How many Nigerians are in Sudan that we know?
The figure that was given today was 5,500 by the embassy.
In how many schools do we have Nigerian nationals at the moment? Because there is a heavy outcry from a lot of students of Nigerian nationals who are in that country.
Yeah, there are various schools that they are attending, but the majority of them are around Khartoum area.
That's the capital.
Which is the capital, yeah. But about 80%, I understand, of that 5,500 are students.
So there's a lot of students population in that country.
Very large.
Give us an understanding why Khartoum or Sudan generally became a place of interest for Nigerians that we have that amount of people.
Well, they have a good tradition, educational system and tradition. And also, you know, it's a country that's very familiar. In fact, it's believed that the Sudan hosts the largest number of Nigerians in the diaspora, which a lot of people may not know. And of course, it was a route for going to Mecca in the old days when you didn't have planes and things. A lot of Nigerians are settled, so you have third, fourth generation Nigerians living in the Sudan. So, you know, so it's become a favored destination for teaching, especially Islamic, teachings.
What are the efforts of the government to bring back or evacuate Nigerians there?
Well, we've been working around the clock for the last 2 days to try and get the Nigerians out. First of all, of course, we have an embassy there, so that's already a good thing. And our embassy, we've told them to put up a platform to, where all the Nigerians in the Sudan can, log on to, so information will be available, and to coordinate the process. Obviously, what you need in a situation like this is a place where everybody can congregate before you start moving them out. And because the airport, as you pointed out in your report there, is out of commission, the only viable way out is by road. And but of course, it's not totally safe. So you're going to require government to provide some security and a safe corridor out. And our situation is particularly challenging because the numbers are so great. Now, we've heard that the US and some other countries, the European countries, have started evacuating. But what they've been evacuating are actually their diplomatic staff. They haven't been able to start evacuating their citizens there.
Have we done that?
No, we have, but you see, we can't evacuate all our diplomatic staff at the moment because they need to also coordinate the evacuation of, of all those students that we're talking about. So, but we're going to also evacuate them. So essentially where we are at the moment is trying to get the authorization from the Sudanese government to undertake this long convoy journey and for them to provide some security. Now, we don't want to take any risks and risk the lives of any Nigerian, because we saw yesterday, for instance, that the French then, in trying to also evacuate their citizens, came under fire. Along the convoy came under fire and they had to turn back. So we also don't want to expose, our citizens, brothers and sisters, to that danger as well. So we're doing everything we can to get the requisite approval from the Sudanese government at the very highest level. So I was in touch, I was put in touch today with somebody in the office of the president, Burhan, and made a formal request to have a safe passage, safe corridor for us to evacuate our people. And, they said that they had received it and they would now be, giving it due attention. So, but we're not going to stop at that. We're going to keep on. The options available to us, Egypt, the Egyptian border is closed. Port Sudan is another place where we understand that some of the international diplomatic people have been congregating, and the Ethiopian border. So then, of course, there's a border with Chad as well, but the three that we're looking at from Khartoum are those three: the Ethiopian border, the Port Sudan, and Egyptian border. The Ethiopian border, there was a video that went viral that said that Nigerian students, some of whom got to the border, were not being allowed into Ethiopia. So I called the Deputy Prime Minister, who's also the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I put this to him, sent him the video, and told him that, we really needed to sort that out. He was very supportive and asked for some information, which we've provided, to try to quickly sort out that situation.
Let me show you, Minister, just how many countries around the world that are evacuating their citizens. Well, I know we have a large number of people, but there are concerns across the globe on nationals, different nationals living in Sudan and their safety and continue living in that country. Look at it. We have France, Germany, Italy. These countries have since evacuated some of their nationals, which you pointed out that some of them may be embassy staff. We know that about 100 people have been evacuated by France. We know that Netherlands are hoping that they will evacuate more people, lifting them by air. Later today, Germany is also in the process of evacuating his national with his military plane landing in Khartoum this afternoon. Italy's evacuation operation has since begun. U.S. authorities said they had airlifted not fewer than 100 people via helicopters. Now, You're talking about diplomatic options that are being put in place. But again, some will say this is not it's over a week since the escalation began. Why is the government of this country so sluggish in dealing with this situation?
I don't agree. I don't think we've been sluggish at all. I mean, the mere fact that the countries you've cited were evacuating yesterday and the day before. No country has evacuated before that. Why? The simple reason is this. You have a government. It's not as if there was a military, war against another country or anything. This is the president and the vice president of a country. And they suddenly start shooting their men at each other. So, initially, all the countries you are mentioning there were calling on them, as we also did, to stop. So, one assumed that it was something that was, just between these people. But of course, it started getting worse, escalating, and that's when we all had to start, looking at evacuating our people. And I think we did it all at the same time. But the advantage that these people have is that the US, Italy, France, they don't have 5,000 citizens in Sudan. They have like the US said, we're only able to evacuate our embassy and staff. And we advise that the other citizens who are there, American citizens, should stay safe and, not come out. So, so the situation, I wouldn't say, is exactly the same. Now, there's also a risk that they took. As you said, helicopters, US helicopters, they have a naval base, close by. And they have those kinds of resources, and evidently they were ready to take certain risks to move those helicopters and other things in there and pull their people out. If we did the same, we would be being very, very selective, because 100 people out of 5,500, who do you take? You just go in, you take out 100 people, only the members of your embassy. We have to look at...
I think that is perhaps, Minister, that some people, your critics have said in this scenario, that Nigeria has more number of people in that country, that there are no proactive steps. In fact, the criticism is that there is a passive attitude towards these move in evacuating Nigerians out there. When you have such a huge number, you should think ahead or be proactive. Those are the questions that have been thrown at this government.
Yeah, well, I think they're not totally fair and justified, because honestly, nobody envisaged that this thing would get so out of hand as, that planes will be brought in and heavy artillery, And as I said, the countries that have even more resources there, and even the Gulf countries, they only started evacuating yesterday and the day before. So, we're all the countries involved, we're all acting more or less at the same time. And some of those countries were much more engaged in what's going on in Sudan. Either some are being accused of backing one side or the other. But yet we're learning and we're seeing, essentially, that all the countries, Nigeria included, with all of them, we're all doing it at the same time. And nobody has completed the process yet. And so I think it would be unfair to say that, we should have the foresight of, of Hebrew prophets
because,
to be able to see...
Honorable Minister, this did not just, there are those who say that this has its root in the former President Bashir. This is not just something that a lot of people think just, out of the blues. It's something that has been, the feelers are there and can be traced to the former head of that country. And perhaps it leads me to ask, how much of progress has the Nigerian government been able to get? When are we likely to get the first aircraft to airlift Nigerians? Or in fact, if it's not airlifting, but getting Nigerians out of that country, when are we likely to see the first batch of people getting out of that country?
Brought out by government, because some are going out on their own. At the moment, tomorrow we could start hiring cars and buses and things and start moving people out. But this would be putting their lives at risk, and no responsible government would do that. What we need at the moment, and one or two other countries were able to obtain that, is for the Sudanese government to give us that assurance that we can drive in convoy our citizens to the border of our choice, be it the Egyptian border or to Port Sudan, or, well, I think the Ethiopian one is not really such an option. I understand that the roads there might not be as safe. So, once we get there, we're ready to go, pretty much. We're in touch with the embassies. They are in touch with a large number of Nigerian students. But we don't want to take that risk, because tomorrow, if we say, right, give the green light, you guys start moving to the border, and there's an ambush, we will be responsible for that. So I think the responsible thing to do is to ensure that we have the full backing of the government of Sudan.
Even if you do so,
for us to do that.
They're talking about the president. Or which of the forces now, because there are two parties here involved in the clash. Now you are the deputy and
mainly the president. The president, actually, because I think that part of the country going towards Egypt, we understand
is under the control.
It's under their control.
Has the president of Nigeria been able to reach out? We are seeing as a big brother of the African nation. There seems to be a lot of conflicts in and around Africa. And as we see Ethiopia and the Eritrea and in that corridor, there are a lot of clashes we're seeing that happened in several parts of the continent. Has the president, for example, been able to reach out? Because now we know what happened in Libya and what it has cost us. The insecurity, security agencies have told us that the Libyan crisis has really cost Nigeria a lot of problems. Now, this is another issue that we have on our hands. For example, we understand that a lot of people are already pulling out of Sudan towards Chad. And we know what happened in the Chadian border and Nigerian situation, the situation that we have on our hands, the insecurity in that corridor. Has President Buhari been able to reach out?
Yes, and he's a firm believer, and he's absolutely right, that we don't have, whether we like it or not, we like to see ourselves as the big brother of Africa, and we play a big role and an important role in Africa. But it's more sustainable to do it collectively. So we work through the African Union. And Nigeria, we have the IGAD, which groups those countries, of Eastern Africa, including Sudan, and Nigeria is also a member. And Mr. President has participated in summits of IGAD and also in the framework of the AU, and pushing for an African solution, because this is an African problem. So I think very much he has been engaged, in that way.
Now, you spoke about the possibilities of evacuation. So I'm asking now, what are the other options available? Could a military operations from Nigeria be possible? Because we see what other countries do. If the lives of their citizens are threatened, they'll go to any length to get them secured. What are the other options should every other options fail? Is military options an alternative?
We'll have to look at the circumstances. We'll have to look at the circumstances. I think we can't, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We shouldn't, anticipate situations that will not materialize. The fact of the matter is that this is an internal battle between a president and his vice president. There's absolutely no reason that we can see at the moment why Nigerians in Sudan should be in any way victimized in this situation. But it should be left in no doubt that the security and well-being of Nigeria and Nigerians is a top priority for this government.
So that's my worry here, that we did not, 15th of April when this escalated, and since that time, it's been getting worse by the day. we did not envisage, and your critics are saying you should have seen this happen. I mean, you have an institutional and historical memory of this kind of thing. It didn't just happen out of the blues. And so the question that other countries will go out to any length, and to what length would the Nigerian government go in getting their citizens to safety?
We will go
out of Sudan.
Yeah, but I mean, you're expecting something of Nigeria that was not expected of any other country. No country in Sudan started evacuating before a day or two ago. Now, we have conflicts everywhere in Africa, in most places in Africa. In DRC Congo, we have an ongoing conflict. And you look around and you will see other conflicts. In Ethiopia, until very recently, you had a conflict that, could have escalated. At one moment, it was thought that they could have even gone all the way, the Tigrayans, all the way up to Addis. But, it's not because there's a conflict somewhere that automatically you start evacuating your people. They're not even going to leave because they will not see any reason, why they should leave under those circumstances. So to a large extent, it was the same here. What looked to all intents and purposes, all the observers, like, a personal issue between two individuals. And of course, you feel that you can bring them together and calm things down. Their people started shooting at each other. At that point, you're not thinking that you're going to have, the
how many of the over 5,000 now are willing to return home?
Well, as I said, I've been in touch round the clock with our embassy there, and they've given us a cost estimate, they've given us all the details, and they've given us a figure of 5,500 ready for evacuation.
Welfare. Pending when they will get home. Restaurants, hospitals are shut. Nigerians are in dire need of help in that place. Is there any information? Let's assume there is a way to pass this information to them. How can we help you? In the media, for example.
Yeah.
Or do you need help?
Yeah, all the agencies of government are working at the moment, including NEMA, the emergency agency, and they're being contacted to find what the needs are, before evacuation, what immediate needs there might be and how to get it through to them. But as I said, we're hoping that in the next day or two we can start, we'd have got the approval from the Sudanese government to start moving our people out. Our embassies in Egypt, I was in touch with our ambassador in Egypt, also because Egypt is a country that's particularly close to Sudan, to also help to facilitate for this corridor and also for their reception when they, arrive there, their upkeep and so forth.
So is our embassy safe enough for in case anybody wants to go there for hiding?
Well,
in Khartoum,
Yeah, but of course, the ideal at the moment, what we've told people is to stay where you are. You don't want to, because it's an unpredictable situation. You don't want to be going, long distances far from where you are domiciled. But obviously, we have a pickup point that has been, I think, that will be communicated to everybody once once we've decided that 0 hour has reached when we should commence evacuation.
So, this has raised a few issues about Nigeria's foreign policy in relation to Nigerians living abroad, and that there is those who believe that over the last 7 years or more, Nigeria does not have a clear foreign policy that gives safety to its citizens, especially in places where their lives have been threatened. We've seen other nations of the world and their own attitude in their policies about their citizens living outside of their country. What would you say is Nigeria's foreign policy about its citizens living abroad?
No, we as a matter of policy, we protect and promote the welfare of Nigerians in other countries. And we do that through many, many different means. I mean, you say that we don't protect Nigerians abroad, but I would beg to differ. I would say, on the contrary, that we have in place a very robust mechanism of, reaching out and defending Nigerians in all the countries in which they are. And I don't know which countries you have in mind, but we react immediately. We seek to have, first and foremost, we have a foreign policy of positive engagement with countries. So that in itself should give, a conducive environment for Nigerians in those countries to hopefully thrive. And where there are any issues concerning Nigerians, we immediately step in. So, for instance, we've had this issue with the UAE. For instance, we've engaged with them at every single level, defending and protecting the rights and the interests of Nigerians, right up to the very highest level, where Mr. President himself, also engaged directly. And, it's been the same, bit in India, where there were some issues with some Nigerians, South Africa, where we've now locked down, binational commission and very concrete, early warning mechanisms to avert some of the issues that we've had in the past. So I certainly would beg to differ. If anybody says...
People will give instances in South Africa, instances in Ghana. No. But again, Minister, you look at the situation in UAE, again and again, this happens severally. And Ethiopia now is another case. The issue of reciprocity is another issue. And those who say, look, our foreign policy in that respect has not been focused. It is very, to say the least, from what your critics say, it's very porous. And in fact, they're saying that Nigeria is not such a respected country, and that's why some of this country disrespect and treat Nigerians with such humiliation.
Yeah, but if you're also honest, I think a point that we make as a government is that there's a whole of government, a whole of country approach, to engagement with other countries, So we also need, as a people, to be putting our best feet forward when we're in these countries. And unfortunately, we have a significant number of Nigerians that are really not representing the country in the way that they really should. And this also has very negative impact on consequences on other Nigerians. And, and if we're fair to ourselves, I could also list to you those countries that you've mentioned. What we also have to do with regards to Nigerians that are also just not conducting themselves in an appropriate manner. And that very often, rubs off on their perception of other Nigerians. And, so those countries, as a response, in some cases, it will tar Nigerians with the same feather. So we also have a responsibility, not just government, but also individual Nigerians, to always behave themselves, to respect the laws of other countries, and do well. And if that's the case, I think the perception of our country will even be better. But I think to say that it is because of policies of government alone would not be correct.
The reciprocal approach of this government is also called to question in some of the scenarios.
In what way?
The UAE scenario is there, and it looks like Nigeria's bend to these powerful countries when we have been treated badly. Ethiopia is another situation.
No, Ethiopia, what is Ethiopia?
The aviation issue.
Aviation issue.
Oh, you're not aware the issue of the Ethiopian Airlines landing issues?
Well, the Ethiopian Airlines has been extremely supportive of Nigeria. In fact, not only that, they are even the preferred
bidders
for the Nigeria. Their president has said they want Nigeria to even buy shares and own Ethiopian Airlines. And were it not for Ethiopian Airlines, especially during the COVID period, we would have been in a lot of problems, in this country. So I would say, on the contrary, Ethiopia and Nigeria have excellent relations. really a special relationship, in fact, I would say, especially between the two, the president and the prime minister of Ethiopia.
So your government, you don't think that, it's against what people are saying, that your government has proven weak in the eyes of other countries when Nigerians have been badly treated?
No, but
in a manner of approach, the people think that there should have been a more proactive and a sterner approach in handling some of these issues.
But like what? I mean, what would be the sterner approach that would make
to give a deterrence that, look, Nigerians cannot be treated in such manner?
Do you know, myself and the Minister of Aviation, we banned Emirates from coming into this country after the COVID because of some of what had been done to Nigerians. And you know what? The huge clamor from Nigerians and pressure on us to lift the ban from all the Nigerians, that they needed to get to UAE, that they, so we were under a lot of pressure, but we stuck to it, until we got some reciprocal...
But it got to such a time that the UAE government placed a visa ban. Some Nigerians cannot even travel to the UAE without having other passports.
Yeah, if we're, to be honest with ourselves, the UAE visa was pretty easy for Nigerians to get. That's a fact. And unfortunately, we had a lot of excellent Nigerians in the medical field, engineers and so forth, who went to the UAE and are doing extremely well in the UAE. But unfortunately, we also got a large number of Nigerians going to UAE and breaking all the laws of the UAE.
So you blame some of these Nigerians for this situation, isn't it?
Listen, I had a call with the foreign minister of UAE because I called him on this visa issue. And he said to me at the time, there were some Nigerians, some of them were stripping naked, that needed to be deported. There were a large number of illegal Nigerians. They were refusing to be deported. And, some of the people started stripping naked. I mean, completely against all the mores of the country, mores of the country. And he said that until the last one left, that they were not going to, lift the ban. So it's just to tell you that it's not... There are other issues very often behind a lot of what happens and what takes place. So, we send planes in to evacuate, to remove those Nigerians. And of course, we followed it up with, with a demand for normalization of visa issues and all that. So, I mean, we're engaging with the UAE. We're not happy with many aspects of our relations with them, but there are areas in which we've also been very firm. In the area of signing some MOUs where we have sort of stood our ground, that we didn't think that those MOUs, investment promotion and other issues, were necessarily in our favor. And we've been very, very strong on that.
On a final note, Honorable Minister, in this almost 8 years of Buhari's government, what would you say is the biggest achievement in terms of foreign relations or foreign affairs? And that's a legacy that Nigerians can remember this government for?
Yes, I honestly believe that notwithstanding what you have said, that we have been able to have a level of friendship with countries across the world that, that probably we didn't have before. And that notwithstanding all the challenges that this country has gone through over this period of time, that there has been still a very high level of engagement with Nigeria amongst all the major countries of the world. And I would also say that at the multilateral level, Nigeria has been able to, I would even say, punch above our weight to become really a country that is a go-to country, respected when other countries want to push issues forward. I think in West Africa, for a long period of time, Nigeria, although there's some backsliding now on democracy, we've been able to I wouldn't say impose in the case of the Gambia, but, some democratic norms in the sub-region, and still playing a very important role. And also in the African Union, continue to make our voices a preeminent voice in Africa. So I would say that this government has done extremely well in Africa, the continent, ECOWAS, the UN, multinational level, and also in our engagement with the most powerful countries of the world, like the US, the Western countries, and others who have, continued to engage very strongly with Nigeria. And, before this government came in, there were bans on exporting all kinds of weapons to Nigeria and so forth.
So we're pretty much friends with Russia, friends with China, friends with UK, friends with the US. We're just in the middle. We really don't take a stance because we're just Nigerians, isn't it?
Not at all, not at all. No, on the contrary, we take strong moral stands. We've taken strong moral stands in some critical positions where people have thought we should have been neutral, but there are issues of morality. And, there's a saying that the hottest places in hell are reserved for those who in times of moral crisis maintain their neutrality. And in times of moral crisis, in issues of moral crisis, this government has stood firm on the side of what it believes to be just.
Mr. Geoffrey Onyema is Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs. Thank you so much indeed for your time. Please, if there are any information that we need, especially in the case in the plight of Nigerians in Sudan, we would like you to please reach out to us, and we will be willing also to be that platform that Nigerians can get help.
Very good.
Thank you so much indeed. I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We take a break, everyone, and when we return, our attention will be putting a searchlight on the constitutional amendment process. President Buhari, out of 35, he signed 16 bills. What happens to the 19? Are they selective? Are they pro-democracy in what he has done? We'll be analyzing from the point of view of someone who has written, a professor who has written an open letter to the Senate President asking him that whatever President Buhari has not done, they should upturn it. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. A former member of the House of Representatives and the former Speaker of the Kwara State House of Assembly, Professor Ali Ahmed, has asked that the Senate President Ahmed Lawan to override President Muhammad Buhari's decision on some constitutional amendment bills. The Kwara former Speaker wrote an open letter addressed to the Senate President, Senator Ahmed Lawan. The law professor says that President Buhari specifically rejected some bills that will strengthen the National Assembly as an institution, noting that the legislative arm of government must stand against the president in the interest of the institution. The Honorable Ali Ahmed joins me live on the program in Abuja. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining us tonight on the program. You're worried, out of the 35 bills passed from the constitutional amendment exercise conducted by the parliament, and of course the old gamut of the state assemblies and all of that, and after all, 35 bills which are supposed to be alterations to the constitution were passed to the president. 16 of them were assented to by President Buhari, 19 were not. You have a concern about this. What's your concern and worry about this situation?
Yes, thank you, Sheum. When you have the nation coalesce on 35 bills out of hundreds. I mean, the National Assembly considered hundreds of bills in the Senate, in the House of Representatives, and they reached consensus on about 100, and they passed it to state assemblies. And from these funnies, only 35 were approved by National Assembly, Senate, and House of Reps, and the required number of states, 35. And the president graciously signed 16 and vetoed 19. Now, the tenor of my letter is not to ask the Senate to override the president's veto on the 19 major constitutional amendment bill that he has vetoed. But to select, if the 19 would be too much, to select about 7 or 8 that have legislative fervor, that has issues that Nigerians is having problem with. Issue of transparency, accountability. So these bills, out of this 19 that the president rejected, I was begging distinguished Senator Lawan and his colleagues to please, for the sake of Nigerians, issue about transparency. Our government is too opaque. To please look critically at this and apply Section 58 of the Constitution. I'm not saying he should go against the president, no. I'm only saying he should stand by the Constitution and ensure that we have a transparent government. Enough of this talk of politics. We talk politics. We've been talking about politics for the past 1.5 years. Electoral bill. Now we've had election, which we should focus on 2027 and focus on governance. We're still debating politics. We should. So this letter is about governance. Politics is not for the fun of it. Politics is not done for mere politics. The only way we can reach up to governance is to engage into politics. So that's the reason this is coming up.
So in layman terms, if president does not assent or sign a bill to law, and the National Assembly does not have any opposition to the president's stance on those laws, for example, the 19 bills that the president refused to sign is termed a veto. That means I'm not going to sign these bills. So, but the National Assembly have the right to let's put it in layman terms, to say, if you are not signing it, but we'll pass it into law anyways. That is the situation, isn't it? Because you gave a historical, an antecedent of in the time of Senator Pius Ayim when he was Senate President, how what they did to override the then president on some of the bills that he vetoed. That is what you meant, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. That was the gravamen of my letter, that Section 58.5 should just be applied where we copied this democracy from, this constitution. In the US, when the American Constitution was being debated, and they think, look, they didn't want to give overly power to the legislative house like the UK did. So Madison said, look, ambition must be made to counteract ambition. Give the legislature some power, counteract it with the power of the executive, give the judiciary some power, counteract it, so that no arm will be too powerful. Now in Nigeria, the executive is too powerful. They lord it over the judiciary, they lord it over the legislature. Now we're begging that distinguished Senator Lawan and his colleagues should apply Section 58.5. We don't have any other language to say that override the president. It looks like confrontation, but it's not. It's part of democracy. That, look, once you can garner 2/3 of members of the Senate and the House, then these important bills, I'm sure we'll go by this bill one by one. These important bills will now pass.
All right. So can you identify to us?
And we said, look, this is not the first time.
Yeah, this is not the first time we have seen that happen. There was a stern position of the National
Assembly. It was done
Assembly
even during President
Obasanjo's period. Yeah,
Obasanjo. Yes, Obasanjo vowed that some bills would never become law as long as he was president. But the Senate of that period in 2000 overrode him. Yeah, so the current legislators are enjoying it. Otherwise, Senate president will not be the third in order of precedent. House of Reps will not be fourth in order of precedent. It is their predecessors that stood against the president, stood with the legislative powers and said, no, after the president, after the vice president, it should be the Senate president. Don't want it.
Prof, let me jump in quickly. Let me jump in quickly. And part of the 16 bills that the president signed is now mandatory, is now constitutional, that a president-elect and a governor-elect is constitutional now, that they must transmit to the National Assembly or the House of Assembly, as the case may be, within 2 months, 60 days of assumption of office, they are nominees for ministerial and commissioner. This is one of the bills that have been signed into law, which, of course, for anybody who remembered, in the case of President Buhari in 2015, it took about over 6 months before the president could transmit the names of minister nominees to the National Assembly. But if you are to highlight the major bills you think that the president should have signed and he refused to sign, which of them would you pick?
I would pick bill number 10. Okay. Bill number 10, if the Senate and the House will even jettison the whole 19 and just pick bill number 10, Nigerians will be very happy. Because this bill number 10 seeks to enforce legislative summons. As I told you, ambition of politicians and these arms must be made to counteract each other. So when an arm of government, say the executive, and I gave examples of some of the members of the executive, they were accused of hiring private jets with 10 billion naira. Now the legislative, the House of Reps of that period, invited this minister, come and tell us how and why did you spend 10 billion just renting aircraft. Then she rushed to court, the court issues an order till today. But if this bill number 10 is passed by Senator Lawan and the House of Reps, if this bill is passed, it will make it enforceable. Legislative summons will be made enforceable, and no court in the land, once a summons is issued against a minister or a commissioner, no court in the land will pretend to issue an order, interim or whatever, and stop that legislative summons. So if they can, in the beginning, even as the Constitution says today, no court should issue an order stopping legislative summons. It's never done anywhere in the world. When Congress invites, in fact, you will be begging Congress to invite you. Take the case of Google. When Congress was looking into the affairs of Facebook and that, because the owners of company were afraid that, look, if we didn't go to Congress and they pass an overarching law, it will affect us and we'll lose that. So they quickly rush, even before Congress called them. In Nigeria, no. You call them, they rush to court, you call them. And I gave an example, this regime. House of Reps called this minister 4 times, and 4 times she didn't even bother to even go to court. So maybe in the next dispensation, when you call another minister, they can even sue the National Assembly that is there. Because we're seeing degradation of the Constitution successively. During Jonathan, they went to court to stop the legislature. During this regime, they didn't even bother to go to court. They just said, look, to hell with you guys. In the next dispensation, maybe the National Assembly dare to invite a minister. They'll go to court and say that you are alleging. I mean, so that's what. But if this bill number 10 is passed,
Prof, there are a few people
how everybody will sit tight and.
There are a few people who are not very happy because about 55 or so were those bills before they were streamlined to 35. Part of those bills that a lot of Nigerians thought will sail was the establishment of state police, the establishment of state judicial council, the streamlining of the procedure for removing presiding officers and institutionalizing legislative bureaucracy in the Constitution. But these didn't see the light of day. But related to the bill which you said that the National Assembly should look at overriding the veto of the president on, is also that of the State of the Nation address, which is one of the bills that wasn't passed, that wasn't assented to by the president. That is also looking more like the bill number 10 that you were talking about. I mean, what importance will this kind of bill be to our democracy?
Yes, it's very important. You see, I didn't even touch the local government bill because you see, the distribution of constitutional power stands on two distinct levels. One is horizontal and one is vertical. The most difficult one is the horizontal one. That's why I picked it, horizontal, because they are all equal. The legislature, executive, and judiciary, they are all equal. The singular power of governance is divided into three co-equal partners. But you see, the local government is even easier because that one is vertical. Nobody doubts the fact that the federal government is at top, is the most powerful. Then followed by the state, followed by the local government. Nobody doubts it. Now we want to empower local government, but sadly, who are the people that voted against the local government? Not the National Assembly, but the state assemblies, because they didn't want to share power with the local government. So you see, we just have to balance powers, but leaving that as we should. Now talking about State of the Nation's address, the only interface that the executive has to interact with the people of Nigeria is during budget presentation, one occasion in 365 days. And you just drop the budget, read your speech, and get out. Now the nation says, look, we should have more interaction with our elected president and governor. Come once a year, come and tell us, summarize to us the last 365 days. What have you done? Lo and behold, the executive vetoed it. And this is one bill also that Nigerians will be happy. Their governors will go to their state assembly every year and say, okay, this is where I have that, because this power is not there. That is why last time the Niger State State Assembly courageously summoned the governor of Niger State. That is why the House of Reps, always courageous as ever, summoned Mr. President when they would not address the people about the security situation. That time everybody was just helpless. So they wanted the president to come and address the nation. They called him, he agreed, but then so with this bill, the president will be obliged to go to the National Assembly every year, just as everywhere.
All right.
In the US, it's there. In UK, the Prime Minister goes there every week and speak to people.
Yeah. Professor Ali Ahmed, thank you so much for the initiative of writing the open letter, which of course has also brought up a lot of conversation on what President Buhari did and did not do. There are those who argue that Buhari, since 1999, has perhaps been the only president that signed the most bill in a two-time being in office as a president. But then there is this crucial bill several billions of naira spent in this process. So why would this bill be thrashed in the can and forgotten forever? It's important that you have brought this up. Thank you so much indeed. And we are hoping that your former colleagues will be able to attend to it. Senator Ahmed Lawan is one of the most experienced lawmakers, and I'm hoping that they will listen to your clamor. Thank you so much. Professor Ali Ahmed, a former Speaker of the Kwara State House of Assembly, a former member of the House of Representatives, and a professor of law. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. Well, that's how far we can go on the program tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm sure Kimale, I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. God bless Nigeria.